Skinks are potatoes with legs. I've said it time and time again, and there's a bunch of really good ones that make really good pets. But there are 5 that kinda don't. So today, let's go over the top 5 skinks that make not great pets, and the 5 ones you should get instead. My name's Adam, this is Erwin, you're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles, stick around. So Erwin is kind of like a squiggly, wrangly, silly goose. So we'll see how long we can keep him steady here. This is a blue-tongued skink. They're gonna be on the list. Are they good or bad? I don't know. Let's just get right into it because I think skinks are awesome and this is gonna be just propaganda for how I love skinks so much. Starting off with number 5. Fire skinks. Now this is a skink I've never actually had. And if it's not obvious by now, when I say things suck, they don't. They are awesome also. So fire skinks are great. But I think there's a better option, and I think that fire skinks are more popular than this option, so I think it just makes sense to drag down fire skinks in order to prop up Schneider skinks instead. Here's why. Fire skinks, they are, well, about the same size as a Schneider skink, not super big, but Schneider skinks are gonna like it drier and just have a little bit easier time with the parameters. And if you're wondering what that sound is in the background, it is big skinks making big sounds. They'll be on the list too. Now, I always thought that skinks were flighty and weird and not the greatest for handling, but I was wrong. I got Schneider skinks just kind of on a whim. There was a couple that was pretty close to me, really geographically. They knew who I was, they reached out about Schneider skinks, and all the pictures that they sent were of these things being handled. Why I'm not handling them right now is just because they're kind of tiny and hard to show on camera, but as you can see here, they're really easy to handle, they're really fun to handle, and I absolutely love spending time with Schneider skinks. Fire skinks likely aren't going to be as handleable as a Schneider skink, as long as, I mean, if you socialize them well, sure. But Schneider skinks, in my experience, are easier to socialize, and they're cheap. Both of them are really cheap. You can buy these things for like $100 most of the time. Now, fire skinks aren't really as popular as they used to be, but it just depends what you want. If you want a box full of dirt with some logs and a water bowl, something that's pretty easy to take care of and you spray once in a while and then you feed them bugs, Schneider skinks. If you want something that is going to be maybe more bioactive, have some live plants, things like that, well, fire skinks would work because they, again, like it a little bit more humid. So that reason, I think Schneider skinks are just easier. And also, I'm a Schneider skink propagandist because I think they're awesome and people should know more about them. And I wish we could breed them more in captivity. Get captive bred always. Okay, let's move on. Number 4, worst skink. Blue-tongued skinks. Okay, so I have 2 of them, so obviously I love them. But what would be better than a blue-tongued skink, which gets big? Like, look how big, like he's a freaking unit, this guy, right? But there is a better skink, in my opinion, that has a different colored tongue but comes from the same place. Blue-tongued skinks come from Indonesia and Australia, and pink-tongued skinks also come from Australia. And they're smaller and more arboreal. So imagine this guy, okay? This is a big chunky monkey, and about half the size would be a pink-tongued skink. Now, pink-tongued skinks are diurnal just like blue-tongued skinks, so they're out during the day. They're gonna have very similar diets. We're talking almost the exact same, but pink-tongued skinks are gonna be smaller, they're gonna be just as easy to socialize, and they're gonna be arboreal. This thing is a potato with legs. He doesn't get very far up a branch or a tree or a cork round. Not the same thing with a pink tongue. So yeah, these guys might be easier because you can keep them in a 4x2x2 or 4x2x1.5 foot tall, which is what I keep him in, UVB, heat panel, whatever you want to do. But if you want a pink-tongued skink, you're going to need something a little bit taller. And I think that maybe this is more fun to watch because these guys, if you have just one animal and you have a low enclosure, it's just awkward to look at. Like you can't... Monkey tail skinks are wild. We'll talk about them in a sec. But pink-tongued skinks, on the other hand, you're gonna have them in a more arboreal enclosure. You can keep them in, say, like 36, 36, 18, something like that, where they're gonna use all of the space. Where with a blue tongue, it'd be wasted space. They're not gonna climb like that. They're not gonna climb up branches. Sure, you'll find them on a rock or on a cork round, but they're not gonna be climbing up vertical branches. That's why I think they're cool. Plus, the diet, they're omnivorous, right? So you can feed them things like, I mean, I wouldn't recommend canned dog food and cat food as a staple. I know people say that, but things like canned snails that you buy packaged, right? Don't go and find snails in your garden. Things like arugula and Swiss chard and all sorts of stuff like that. And then they have prepared diets like Bluey Buffet that pink-tongued skinks can eat too. They're not as popular. They're gonna gain in popularity, I think. I think they're awesome. Pink-tongued skinks for the win. Although blue tongues are pretty awesome too, also, as well as. Number 3, Sandfish Skinks. I don't think we've ever talked about Sandfish Skinks on this channel. And I don't have a good reason for it. Sandfish Skinks are freaking awesome. They're really cool. They have shovel faces. Imagine if a hognose snake and a sand boa made a baby and it grew legs. That is a Sandfish Skink. However, if you have one, you basically have a box of dirt because you'll never see them. They're called Sandfish Skinks because they kind of swim through the sand like as they shimmy, but you're not going to see them that much, and that's the reason that I gripe on Kenyan sand boas, because Kenyan sand boas, again, are just going to be hiding most of the time. But if you get something like a Peter's banded skink instead, very similar, they are related. I think they're just as cool looking with their color and pattern. Well, that's their banded skink, they're Peter's banded skinks because they have bands, and they're all named Peter. They're also going to be kind of like swimming through the sand and stuff like that. However, they are going to have a little bit more freedom above the substrate. So you're going to see them a little bit more often. They're both similar sizes, around 8 inches. They're both going to be, eating during the day and acting during the day. They're both going to be eating insects. So it's really easy, in my opinion, to take care of them. And they're beautiful and they're not that popular. So you might be your only friend that has one. So in general, I just think that they're super cool and unique and the whole thing. Okay. Move on to number 2. A special thanks to today's sponsor, Into the AM, my favorite clothing brand. If I'm not wearing WWR merch, I'm wearing Into the AM. Now this is a really cool graphic tee, and right now if you go to intotheam.com/WWR, you get a discount just for hitting the link. And then you get to look super cool in graphic tees, or if you want something just plain, V-neck, hats, sleeveless, summer's coming up, these guys have you covered. They have hundreds of designs, and I have so many every shirt I wear is Into the AM. And it always will be, because it fits well. Like, it fits my body well. I feel confident. I can walk around and look super cool. And if you want to look super cool too, intotheam.com/WWR. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the list. Number 2, worst skink, red-eyed crocodile skinks. I am so sorry, Reptiliatus. Let's say have a moment of silence for your tears. Here's what I mean. Because I love red-eyed crocodile skinks. I think they're one of the coolest animals on the planet. I have one tattooed on my arm, okay? So I freaking love these things. The reason that I say that they're bad right now, which will change because of guys like Diana Reptiliatus, is most of them are wild caught, which means most of them have parasites and issues, and most keepers don't take their animals to the vet to get properly treated, and that is why they're on the list. So instead of a red-eyed crocodile skink, buy a captive bred red-eyed crocodile skink. So same animal, just captive bred. And the big difference is price. So if you buy a crocodile skink, red-eyed crocodile skink, you can probably buy them for like $3, $4, $4.50, something like that. If you buy a captive bred one, $7.50. Big difference, but it is worth it. Now, red-eyed crocodile skinks like more humid environments. You're going to keep them in where there's actually a water feature, or at least some sort of pool that you can clean out. You're going to have pothos in there, and they're going to hide under logs and stuff. Reptiliatus, I mean, that's the footage you're seeing here. Go watch his videos. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he's really good at keeping and breeding them. And the breeding is interesting too, because they will put out one egg, and then when the egg hatches, the mother will actually take care of the animal. Now, in the snake world, this doesn't happen. Most reptiles don't take care of their young, but crocodile skinks, the red-eyed crocodile skinks, there are white-eyed crocodile skinks too, which act the same, but either way, will take care of their babies. The babies will eat the mother's poop. It's like this weird thing. And yeah, it's kind of like interesting, right? Kind of like interesting. I'm so good at speaking. Really cool, not super big, easy to care for the most part, but get captive bred, please. Find a breeder that breeds them captively. That's my advice to you. Number 1, an animal that I do have, but have scars on my hands from the last time I held them, monkey tail skinks. Okay, so why are they the worst? I talk about them a lot. They're the ones making all the noise back there. They have the biggest enclosure in this room besides the 2 huge ones on the floor here. So why would I call them the worst? Well, most people can't handle the biggest skink in the world, which is what they are. Most people can't handle a bite or a scratch from them. They oftentimes are cantankerous. They eat a ton of vegetables. They are completely herbivores, and they will eat so freaking much, it's wild. I dumped the whole thing of spring mix in there yesterday. I have to go get more today. It is freaking wild. But they're also the number 1 best. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with number 2. get a captive bred one. Don't get a wild caught one. Now, the wild caught ones are shut down, okay? So Solomon Islands no longer exports them as far as I know, so you're only going to have the option of getting one that was exported a while ago or a captive bred one. And a captive bred one is going to be about $1,500 versus $1,000. So, and I think the price is going to rise because there's no more being brought out of the Solomon Islands, which is where they're from. Now, this is a prehensile tailed skink, Solomon Isle prehensile tailed skink. They're the biggest skink in the world. They're only herbivores, if you didn't hear me say that 34 times already. Big, powerful jaws, big, powerful hands and claws. However, if you socialize them correctly, you can just handle them. Just wear a glove. Because I'll tell you what, like, this was a few weeks ago, and I still have stuff on my hands, like scratches from them. Oh, and they smell bad too, by the way. Their poops stink freaking horribly. As soon as you walk in the room, you know that they've pooped. And they need big enclosures because they're so big. Again, biggest skink in the world. So they're in a 4x4x2. And then once I got one that's coming that's 4 foot wide, 2 feet deep, and 6 feet tall, they're going to get an upgrade into that one. And you basically make it like a jungle, give them places to climb and cork rounds and stuff like that. So I think that they're probably one of the coolest animals in the entire world, but they're not for everybody. But the people that they are for, they love them. And I can't blame them. I think that they're freaking amazing. I love everything about monkey tail skinks. I just think that they're not for most people. So let me know what you think the best and worst skinks are. Let me know, is there a part 2? Let me know if you want to comment. Actually, you don't need to let me know. You can just comment and then like and subscribe. I appreciate you if you do. And as always, a special thanks to the Patreon subscribers. You guys get extra videos early, discounts on merch. There's new tiers where we have one-on-one meetings once a month, that type of thing. All that and more. All you have to do is hit the link below. And because we do videos on Mondays and Thursdays, that means I'll see you in the next one.